Look at me. I want you to imagine in your minds for a second, who do I appear to be? I am Latoya Gabbidon, advocate and advisor for people with multiple disadvantages. But 2 years ago, I was a different woman. What if I told you I once created my own clothing line designed for women? All digitally printed fabrics, all UK manufactured. Launched my online shop funded by Virgin Startup, that Richard Branson Virgin. I had over £10,000 worth of products stored in a warehouse. But guess what? One day, I lost that business, and on top of that, I ended up homeless. You could never imagine a woman who's worked hard in the healthcare sector with a business degree would end up sleeping in a women's shelter. It goes to show, you can never look at somebody and see what they've been through. I don't look like what I've been through because I carry myself well. But I'm sure you're curious. How did all that happen? But before I dive into that, I want to talk about my topic today called Building from Inner Traits. The inner traits that outlines the journey that nurtures the intangible traits we develop from within us. Certain traits are curated in the heart and the minds first before we see physical manifestations of them. But it takes being in the right environment around the right people to bring those traits out of us. In the past, I would internalize my pain. And I internalized my pain because I hated being a burden to others. And I went through one of the deepest pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. I have a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. It's a condition that produces big pus-filled boils on certain areas of the skin. And I would get some bad flare-ups. And every time I got those flare-ups, I would end up in A&E or the emergency room for some. Because if those boils burst on their own, I could get sepsis. And that could potentially be fatal. So that led to me having to undergo 3 minor surgeries within the space of a year. That was tough. People can have chronic diseases and they could be invisible because they're hidden. So for me, recovery was hard. Battling sickness, unable to work. The financial struggles began. The priority bills needed to be paid. The rent needed to be paid. The car finance needed to be paid. The business loan needed to be paid back. And my mother's caretaker in the Caribbean needed to be paid. So one day the inevitable happened. My landlord at the time told me I had to go. And that warehouse that stocked all my £10,000 worth of products, well, I was behind on that bill too. And I had nowhere to put the products. So they sold all my products to auction. And just like that, I lost everything. It was a difficult period. So one day, I packed everything I had left in the car I had at the time and headed to a women's shelter I had found on Google that day. I arrived at the shelter about 11 p.m. that night, distraught, angry with myself, confused, questioning myself. Latoya, how did you get here? I judged myself. But I remember as I sat down, and a lovely member of staff, she went through the registration with me, and she said to me, she gave me this stare, and she said, Latoya, I can see that you do not belong here. I'm going to help you. She immediately showed me that she believed in me, even though I was a wreck. She said, I want you to go down to a day center where you could be assigned a caseworker and you will get 2 meals a day. And so I did. The following morning, I went down to that day center. And little did I know what awaited me. That day center is called the Passage. At the Passage, what I experienced was the beginning of history. That charity was instrumental in my rebirth. They gave me a voice. They showed me that they believed in me and they saw my potential. And so they gave me opportunities that changed my life. And one such opportunity is to participate in a fundraising event at the Lambeth Palace, where I had the opportunity to be interviewed by Julie Etchingham, an ITV news anchor, and many other opportunities followed. But to top it off, I got to meet the Prince of Wales. And that was an honorable meeting. Prince William, who is also a patron of the Passage. So I realized that daring to share our stories and elevating the invisible can influence the change we want to see. And to inspire real change, I needed to be vocal about my own experience through homelessness. The Passage gave me another opportunity that changed my life. I met the Mayor of London, where I participated in a roundtable meeting at the City Hall. The Mayor of London has pledged to end rough sleeping in London by 2030. And I'm privileged to be a part of the advisory groups that are set up to make sure that happens. I am also a part of the Groundswell Charity Greater London Advisory Board that is also set up to ensure that the Mayor's plan of action is executed successfully. But I said all that to say this. In my experience, I've had some dark days, but I am now the light. It took being in the right environment and the right people around me to bring that light out of me. I am no longer internalizing my pain, but I am channeling that to affect change. Because I have led myself from within with courage, with resilience, with compassion and self-love, I am now seeing the positive results of that. Homelessness is an experience, but it doesn't define who we are. And homelessness can happen to anyone. I have seen people from other professions who have fallen on hard times, doctors, lawyers, sleeping in those shelters. So in most cases, all they need is a second chance. So it's about shaping our perception, breaking the stereotype, and coming to the realization that everybody deserves support. Selflessness should be the driving force of our world. And that is why care is the spine of my purpose. And my years of service in the healthcare sector solidifies that. I love seeing people recover and bounce back. The leader I am today is the leader I've always been. And though I fell, it took pulling from traits within to bounce back. Today, my dream has shifted. Humanity is all that matters to me now. Fashion is no longer the focus, but humanitarianism is the goal. I want to affect change. I want to create change. I want to one day build my own place of refuge to help those who are going through what I have been through. So I want to encourage you all to be the best leader you can be to yourself first. Be kind to yourself first. Be courageous in yourself first. Develop that compassion within you first. And then that will transpire and transcend to others. And after you've done all that work on yourself, I want you to ask yourself the important question. Who else are you willing to give that second chance? Thank you for listening.